All right, everybody, welcome to the Player Development Pod brought to you by Beyond the Field. Once again, we're here. This is our series of those who are doing work in the field. Today, we have Tony Washington Jr., the Director of Player Development with Oregon Football. Throw your O's up, everybody. Tony, we're going to get into his story. He's a former player. I think he has like 492 jerseys combination in his closet, but we're going to get started. We're going to talk. Thank you so much for being here. Tony, if you could start us off, just, tell the people out there, like let me tell you the people who are listening. These are people who are directors of player development, people in college who are thinking about this, people in other professional fields, maybe athletics thinking about transferring over to this field. So just tell them a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive into these questions as the show goes on.
For sure. Yeah, man. So I'm West Coast all the way through and through. I was born in Los Angeles, grew up in the Inland Empire, which is about an hour to 45 minutes, depending upon traffic from Los Angeles. All my family, both mom and dad side, grew up in Los Angeles, so that's where my heart's at. West Coast all the way through. I was fortunate to get the opportunity to come play football here back in 2010. Kind of a crazy story. Went from coming out of high school, I was like an oversized linebacker, undersized defensive end, trying to play on the edge, and got up here trying to figure out where I fit within the scheme. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me, wasn't a lot of space for me. Eventually, found a spot. We transitioned to a different defensive scheme, ended up being like a stand-up defensive end, outside linebacker type player, and just worked my way onto the field. Definitely was not the 5-star, 4-star that comes in. Was definitely the guy I had to work my way up. So I kind of, built my DNA, just grind it out, get it out the mud, whatever you got to do. Yeah. And, was able to make my way on the field. Started, 2 years, and I felt like I was able to make the most out of my opportunity. But from there, I had an opportunity to play in the league 4 years, up and down, practice squad, active roster. It was kind of all over the place. That's a whole different game. Yeah. I learned a lot of, business-wise, and because of my experience in the professional football league, I just, honed in on those skills I was able to get as a student athlete. Here at University of Oregon, we have so many resources and things I was able to tap into when I was young, guys coming up. So it kind of builds into what I'm getting to do now. But, I love the game of football. I think it, has a lot to it that you can apply outside of the sport. I think my mentality and how I approach my job day to day is a lot of it's built on my, experiences with football from, Pop Warner all the way up to the highest level. So I love being able to do what I do. I love being around this environment, getting to know these student athletes from when they're, teenagers up until they're young men. So I just love where I'm at, love what I'm getting to do, and looking forward to what's next.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I love your story. You talk about getting it out of the mud, man. You're a Rose Bowl MVP, man. It ain't a lot of people walking around with that. I was trying to get Little League MVP. You're a Rose Bowl MVP. Kind of talk to us about the highs of your, I think, you're part of 3 conference championships. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say you were in the inaugural CFP championship or the inaugural CFP playoff. Let's, before we dive into it, man, I want to hear from you, man. We want to give you your flowers, man, because you got it out the mud, like you said. You found a way to get it done. And that's kind of why, I wanted to invite you on this podcast. I was just looking at you from afar as a professional, man. You just get it done. Like, you're just like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get it going. So going back to your playing days, if you could kind of talk about, how it felt to come, because correct me if I'm wrong, y'all are playing Florida State the year after they won a national championship.
Correct.
And, kind of tell me about like going into that game, your mindset, and just what was it about the team? Because I understand no disrespect to the coaching staff. Coaching staff do an incredible job. But to be a champion, your players have to take you over the limit. Over the threshold would be the better term. So talk to me about you and your teammates and, 3 conference championships to play in the first CFP. Kind of talk about that and just the experience. Like, this CFP thing kind of came out and y'all are probably like, oh, snap, So kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah, so that year was just different from the beginning. Just to give some history, the year prior, we ended up at like the Alamo Bowl. It was a year where we felt like we had it in the bag, like we were rolling, and then we lost, a big one late, and because of that, they knocked us out of, being able to go to those BCS games they called it at the time. So, and we ended up winning that bowl game, but this wasn't the standard we set for ourselves. So I think from the, January 1st of that, whatever that was, 2014 year, we just were in a different mode, and we weren't going to leave it up to the coaches. I think we had some, extremely strong leaders. Marcus Mariota ended up winning that Heisman that year. Mm-hmm. We had numerous guys get drafted in the NFL, but it was more about we had great talent, no question. But, you know, if you look at that national championship team, compare our roster versus the team we played, I don't think it's really comparable. But we just had guys that were going to keep each other accountable. This is beyond just what you see like on film during practice. We had, you know, our groups on defense. We were coming here extra early. Like we were working out twice a day, and not just for us just say we checked the box to do extra work. We really felt like it was going to translate on the field. So it just showcased itself from the very first game. You know, we had a big time game against Michigan State early on. A game many people probably didn't feel like we were going to win, but we came out on top on that one. And then honestly, we had a very humbling game early on as well. You know, we lost at home versus Arizona, a game a lot of people felt like we should have won easily, but they came out, they were ready, they were more prepared than us, and they came with the W. But me specifically, I had a very controversial play in Oregon football world. You know, I got a personal foul penalty late in the game. It was a very clutch moment. Ended up driving down. They you know, scored on that drive, and that sealed the game. And because of that, I got a lot of energy, social media from the outside world. And this is before social media was even as big as it is.
I could imagine.
Yeah, like now people will blow you up on Instagram, Twitter. At that time, it was more like Facebook. Like people making, you know, fake Facebook accounts talking about like I should be off the team and help me tear ACL, all kind of crazy stuff.
Damn.
And that like really put me in a bad place mentally, and not necessarily because, you know, I hear the chatter. Like I get it, fans are fans, and they're going to say what they need to say, but more so because I felt like I let my team down by making one selfish decision, and it cost us a game, and that could have altered where we went, you know, where we wanted to be at the end of the year. But after that game, this is like week 5. After that game, I remember, you know, some of the leaders of the team really, you know, bringing me up and connecting with me behind the scenes and just talking about how they got my back. They know what I did wasn't necessarily because I was trying to put myself before the team. It was just the ref made a call, even though I did the same thing the week prior. The ref wanted to call it this game. They called it. Obviously, it was poor timing, but from that moment we felt like we have to silence the doubters once again. And we were able to keep, you know, stacking the days on top of each other, and we ended up where we wanted to be. So we're just a really resilient team. We had a bunch of mature individuals who made a decision to go do something, and we did everything in our power to do it. So, you know, I'm thankful for those guys, just keeping us a close-knit family. I know we preach this word family a lot, especially in this football space, but I think we truly exemplified it. And we were able to get to where we want to go. Obviously, you know, made that national championship year. Didn't go the way we wanted to go, but just being able to be a part of history and be a part of the first, you know, team or group to reach the playoffs and then reach the national championship after that is something I'll never forget. So just grateful for the opportunity and grateful for the experience.
Yeah. So one more question before we get into the questions a little deeper, talking about what you're doing now. So I watched that highlight of you picking up the fumble. Did you see the ref fall as you picked up the fumble?
I actually didn't. But I saw all the memes afterwards on Twitter. It was just hilarious to me because I really didn't recognize it. In my head, it had one job, and that's just get to the end zone. Right. I remember when I did get there, I was just so thankful and grateful that I made it because that was my first time scoring in college. So it was crazy environment. And it means more to me because, like I said, I'm from Southern California. Be able to play in Pasadena. I've watched so many games there as a youth. And, you know, being able to make that impact play in that game, in that stadium with all my family there, was something that's incredible. And it's still funny now. Somebody just talked to me about that play last night. So it's like never ending. It's cool to have a play that's going to be remembered, you know, throughout history of Oregon sports, something that's going to be passed on from generation to generation. I wasn't expecting it to be like that at the time. Yeah. I didn't know it was going to be something that was going to be remembered. But all those little things we're talking about, you know, ref falling down and the way Jameis kind of just lost the ball, it's just so rare that it happens in college sports, professional sports. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, so let's get into this. So first question, and for you all listening, we're going to go through personal, professional questions. We're going to go through some advice, and then I got a rapid fire that I'm excited about that he does not know about that we're going to go just to see some things. So first question here is talk to us about how you got into the field, from looking at your background, and I'll tell a little bit. You went from playing in the NFL, then you were assistant D-line coach at Nebraska. What was that transition like to get into this role?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So prior to my getting to Nebraska, I was just finished up playing in the league, got released back in 2018, and I was dealing with a pretty serious injury the year prior, and it just never kind of felt like I was the same, and it was just getting to the point where it was too much just to go practice, and I wasn't going to be able to sustain this long term. So hung up the cleats, and from there I was just trying to figure out what was next. So I did kind of some odd jobs, substitute teaching for a little bit. I worked as a juvenile counselor for a little bit. Just connecting with youth that were local in Oregon, and then from there I got the opportunity to go to Nebraska. And at that time I wasn't even looking to get in college sports, wasn't looking to become a coach, but it was an opportunity too good to pass up. I had a bunch of my former coaches at Nebraska, those who coached me at Oregon, they were running the show at Nebraska, so they were like, "You want to come, be a GA here?" And I was in the middle of I had just started grad school. I was going for nonprofit management. I got one term done. Here we're on course-system, so we have terms, not semesters.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I got the call, "You want to come out here?" And I was like, can't say no. And even though I wasn't looking to become a coach, I knew the relationships I can build with these student athletes will be beneficial for me. That's who I want to be. I want to be on these journeys with these young men and kind of, sharing my experience while not necessarily showing them how to live, but being on their experience with them. Kind of giving them tips and tricks as along the way. And I was going to do that through the coaching lens. So I did that for 2 seasons at Nebraska for 2019, 2020. Conclusion of that 2020 season, director of football ops at Oregon. We're in constant communication. He's been working here for like 13 years. I've literally known him forever. We've talked about this position, and the former person in this position went to a new school with one of our staff members who got elevated to a head coach spot, so it was vacant. So even though I was kind of doing on the field work in Nebraska, wasn't necessarily in alignment with the job opportunity here, but the relationships that I built as a student athlete here, the relationships I built with some of the staff members who have been retained through all these years went a long way. So I got into the position. As soon as I heard it was available, hit up the DFO, told them I was interested, and that kind of transitioned into the next interview. But I literally hit up everybody I could. We have somebody who's over student athlete development for all of her sports. Her name is Katie Harbert. She was super, extremely influential in my development here when I was a student athlete. She was like the first person I hit up. I sent out a text to the AD because he was here when I was a student athlete. Yeah. And just a bunch of people who could possibly be involved in the hiring position. I tried to let them know that I was interested, and I think they knew that's how I was as a human. They would be able to kind of co-sign for me or, give their suggestion on me. So that's kind of how I got into it. At least got my name into consideration, and then from there, I literally just broke down exactly how I envisioned this position, how I can make an impact, and the rest was history.
All right, so with this position, tell us a little bit about your role. When people hear the Director of Player Development at Oregon, one thing that I've said in previous podcasts is that Director of Player Development means so much every different place. So if you could talk specifically about your role, the responsibilities you have in your role there with the University of Oregon.
Yeah, so it's a lot. I wear a lot of different hats, and depending upon who, which student athlete I'm dealing with, our relationship can look different. But for me, I try to make it, I don't want to say plain, but I try to explain it as this: like coming to the University of Oregon, we have numerous surrounding resources, whether it's mental health, whether it's networking, whether that's getting you an internship, whether that's you getting informational interviews, whether that's you getting out to the community, getting out different businesses, nonprofits, organizations, whatever. I'm trying to be the person that makes that happen. Now, I get it. You're coming here to be a student athlete and play the sport of football specifically. And I'm not trying to take that away from you. I hope you go play 10, 15 years in the league, all pro, all American while in college. Yes, I completely 100% want to support you in that. And I'm not going to try to deter you from that plan. But when that day is done, football, all athletics has a shelf life. Once that's done, I want to at least be able to allow you to have some type of structure or some type of foundation to build off of what comes next. So if that means while you're in college, you're going to these different programming events or going to meet, mentors or going to be a mentee or maybe going to, spend time with people in the community. That's always going to build you up for what you want to do once it's done. I was grateful enough to have a clear vision of what I wanted to do once that day of football was going to be over. But so many of our football athletes specifically just kind of get this tunnel vision of, let's just do football. So I try to, navigate my way into building relationships with our student athletes to show them that there's more to them than just what this athlete box we put you in. And there's more interests that you have. And there's more that you can do while you're on this platform. So take advantage of the athletics as much as you can, but there's also time for you to build yourself up holistically outside of your sport. So I do that in numerous amount of ways. Like I said, my relationship with each student athlete is different depending on where they're at. As you know from being in the field, like some guys are, kind of have their head on their shoulders pretty securely, and they can navigate themselves as adults on their own. Some guys you kind of have to, hold their hand across the finish line. So I'm down to get grimy and dirty, and if that means I gotta blow you up to make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, I'm gonna do it. Some guys just are easy, and they will be more proactive about getting it done on their own. So I'm all over the place. The day-to-day can look different. And aside from the the relationship building of student athletes, obviously there's like some operational work you have to do behind the scenes to kind of get things in alignment. I'm huge on onboarding all of our incoming, our newcomers, whether they're freshmen, transfers, JUCO, whatever. I try to get them set up with their housing, try to get them set up with the university for their finances and the direct deposit set up. And it's all over the place, and stuff that we take for granted as adults. Some of these guys don't necessarily know. Everybody has different backgrounds growing up, so I try to help build them up from a life skills perspective, so they can just be successful out in society and in the community.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Yeah. So then, what does your day look like? So it's a lot when you come into office. People would ask me, like one time I had this young lady, she was interviewing for the position. She was like, can you give me a detailed schedule of what it looks like? I was like, there's no way. So what does not happening? What does your day look like?
So like you said, every day is different. On a typical day, whether that's in season, off season, I like to be around athletes as best as I can, whether that's seeing them in treatment, whether that's seeing them, on the practice field when we're allowed to, or seeing them when they're doing their, their off-season conditioning and whatnot. I try to be around as much as I can just because I feel like it helps me see how they like to work, how they operate in high-pressure environments. I just like to just be around them and let them know that I'm always here support-wise. Aside from that, you'll see me on campus. I'll hop around. We have like a student-athlete academic center. That's where we do all our tutoring, our study hall, all our academic advising appointments. I'll be hopping in there. I'll try to connect with everybody on campus just to continue to get an update on guys where we can continually support them. I'll be meeting with a student athlete development team every week, trying to connect on what projects or programs they have coming up, how can it be assistance, and then same thing, stuff that we have football wise, how they can be of assistance. I connect with a lot of people in the community, just different times of the week, different times of the month, just so we can be proactive about what we want to offer and how we can get guys involved. Obviously meet with coaches on guys who need maybe some one-on-one support or kind of update them on what's going on. They update me. I'd like to be involved in recruiting for guys that are coming or potential guys who will be coming in the future, just to let them know how I can be of assistance and how we support our student athletes outside of athletics. So it's kind of all over the place. Evening times, that's when we usually have our full staff meetings. So that's when everybody gets up to date on who's doing what. This time of year is a little wild just because all the coaches are on the road recruiting. So not as much of that, but typically in the normal calendar year, we'll have those staff meetings to get updated on everything. So I wouldn't say at like 8 o'clock I do this, 9 o'clock I do this, 10 o'clock I do that. But those are the kind of the meat and potatoes of what I do day to day. And some things I may tap in, some things I may not. So I'm kind of all over the place, and I just know going into the day, I usually know what's first, and then whatever falls in line after that, so be it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. I know exactly. I could relate perfectly. Yeah. I used to tell people whatever message I get first is how my day's going to go. If it's a text message or an email, it's going to tell me how it goes. What's the biggest, not the last, but the next question in this personal, professional questions, what's the biggest thing you've learned in this role? Specifically, like just you as a professional, but then I would say also as you as a former player, like, man, I never thought about this. Like, what have you learned in this role?
I've learned just so much happens behind the scenes that you never know about, in terms of, the planning or, the fundraising it'll take to get things done, or, the reason why things are structured the way they are. Those are been the biggest eye openers for me. Just being a student athlete, just seeing like, okay, we got this, we can do this, we can do that. Not really knowing the work that goes into getting these things planned. I just think in this, this system, this football system that we're in, sometimes it's just like instant gratification, but there's so much things that go on and so many people involved to ensure these student athletes have the best experience. So the work that it's going to take to get these big programs, and even though you may not have, the participation you want, or you may feel like, the overall outcome wasn't as strong or as deep as you wanted it. Like somebody's going to get something out of it on one end, and all the people that, help make it happen are so critical on the other end. So those are the biggest things I guess I've learned. But the biggest takeaway is just always be open-minded. There's always, multiple ways to get things done. And although I see it this way and the head coach sees it a different way, at the end of the day, student athletes are the most important piece of this. And at the end of the day, they're going to get something out of it. So just working on trying to be open-minded and not just being like, this is how I've always done it. And that's on both ends. That's me as a human, and also me as working with other individuals in this space. So that's kind of how I view it.
All right. So one thing I talk about, appreciate you sharing that. One thing I talk about, let me go back to what you said. That part right there is what got me. Like, getting to a game is just so. During COVID, I was exposed. I was at University of Kansas, and our assistant director of football operations took a job somewhere else right during camp, and so now I'm kind of like player development / ops, and I'm like, dang, all this happens just to get on. Like I had to do man, we were doing seating charts for the plane, COVID, who has COVID, who doesn't have, hotel, that was taking we were in there for 3 hours just doing all that, and so I'm with you, and all the years I was in college, I didn't even, you just kind of feel like, okay, we practice, get on the bus, go play, whatever, it's just like, man. All right, so last question in this segment. One thing I really talk about a lot is support in this role, because is it just you right now?
Yeah.
So what does support for you and what you're doing look like in this role?
Support for me is really the staff understanding that I'm a one-man show right now. I do have, people in other areas like our head of academics or our DFO or our assistant DFO. They help me out a lot, and I try to help them out as well. So I would definitely say we're kind of a team, and sometimes I may need to help them with operational stuff. Sometimes they may need to help me with player development. Sometimes I have to help with academics and vice versa. So support for me is just them being open-minded as well. Sometimes I may need their assistance on this or need their perspective on this to get certain things done, and they're great. I've learned a great deal from them just in terms of, how to, approach this job and how to be, professional in it and make it all clean and easy for, Coach Lanning or whatever head coach you're working with. So I don't necessarily, yes, it would be great to have, an assistant director of player development or, whatever the titles that may be out there. But I think, I'm good at, I don't want to say I'm good enough. I guess I'm okay with, having to grind it out. And what makes it easier for me is the staff gets that it's just me and that we can get stretched thin at times. So it's not like they're berating you if things don't get done at a certain time or they're impatient. Obviously, some stuff is going to have more priority. You need to get it done on the timeline, but they're usually great at work with me, and I feel like I try to be as quick as I can be, and that's enough support for me.
So you mentioned transition. You mentioned, or you didn't mention transition, but you mentioned Coach Lanning, and you're in a transition. If this wasn't a question I asked, but it's great, opportunity to segue into it. Some people may experience transition. If you're in this player development field, coaches do move around. I've been a part of transition. It wasn't really a true transition because we went from our head coach to our OC, but it still was transition because I didn't know I was going to have a job or not. But if you could talk about the transition, how it was, and as much as you can, meeting Coach Lanning, let him know what you can do, and just that because I know how it is, man. You still got to come and do your thing, not knowing what's going on. So if you kind of talk about that with people here.
It was actually crazy. We had just gotten back from our bowl game this December, and it was a lot of rumors swirling around about our former coach leaving. But in my head, I didn't think he would. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, why would he? Whatever. So
Right.
I remember, I just remember getting to work one morning and then seeing all the players like come out of a meeting, and I guess they just had a meeting with just head coach, just players only. So I didn't even hear from him that it was moving on. So that was still kind of wild. So then it started hitting all the news channels. I'm like, okay, this is real. He's moving on. We don't know who our next head coach is going to be. And at that moment, nobody really knew what to do. We were just kind of have to work as we can. And then, if he called you like, oh yeah, come with me, then you're coming with him. So I think, but he wasn't the only one that left. We had a couple other coaches. Obviously, our offensive coordinator got a head coaching job. Our linebacker coach got a head coaching job. So guys were kind of on their way out anyway. But, for support staff, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
So it was a very weird space, just trying to keep the team together until, decision was made about who was going to be what. At that point, we had meetings with, our athletic director and kind of just trying to keep us up to date on what was going on. But honestly, he didn't really know what was, at that time, he didn't really know what was going to happen next. So it was really strange. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of freaking out. I remember talking to my girlfriend about it, and we were just like, do what we can for now, and,
Right.
hopefully we put ourselves in a position to be set up for the next place. So I think at that time, I think I even reached out to you, like, anything's coming up, like, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll put out a good word for me or whatever. And luckily we have a pretty strong network in player development. So just feeling out what was available. And kind of fast forward, once Coach Lanning was officially hired and, he got done playing the national championship, he had individual meetings with, all of the remaining support staff. And I just kept it, very transparent with them and, let them know what I can do. And, I still want to stick around. It's my alma mater, obviously. So I'd like to work here as long as I can. I think I can do good work. And same situation, almost like I did when I first was trying to get hired. I hit up, everybody I could, let them know, like, hey, put in a good word. And thankfully, because I had been on the job for a year, I built a lot of relationships throughout the community and, with, mentors and people, who give to our program. So they were able to put in good work for me without me having to ask. And I think that helps with his decision. But it's just wild. You just never know. Like, a head coach can come in, and it doesn't matter how good, you did your work prior. He may have his own guy or may have his own vision of who he wants to put in his position. So I never truly knew. And even, a month after Coach Lanning being here, it wasn't official that I was going to be here yet because he hadn't put his whole staff together at that time. So, eventually it came to the point where, we had a conversation that he wanted to keep me around, and, I was thankful for that. So the transition has been wild just in terms of, everybody, you always feel like you're behind when you're a new head coach. So just trying to keep up and trying to understand how he likes things done or how he views things has been, a learning process for me. But, it's been all good. Like I said, I'm grateful to still be here, and, I'm thankful to still be learning and continue to do the work that I'm doing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's going to help a lot of people. All right,
sure.
Here we go. This is the advice part, So what's your overall advice for those looking to get into this role? Just, wherever they are. They all start from different places, but what would be your advice?
Just continue to build strong relationships. That's the only reason I'm in this space. And not necessarily relationships with, the group you're going to be working with, but just more just whoever is in a position that you want to be in, or whoever can potentially help you get to that position. I think it all happens the way it should, and it'll happen organically. I wouldn't say that I built relationships because I knew I wouldn't say that I built relationships with people at Oregon because I knew I wanted to work here one day. I just felt like they had something to offer me in terms of building me up as an individual and building me up as a professional. And I want to latch on to them and learn as much as I can, and that develop into me getting into this position. So I always try to just be organic and always try to be just who I am and not do things for ulterior motives. But I do feel like this space is definitely relationship based. If they feel like you're great at building relationships and helping guide people who you're around, you're a surefire fit for this type of role. So that's all I've been trying to do. And even since being in this role, getting connected to people with like you, or getting connected with people, who were in player development in other schools. I think it's been great for my development. I talked with Syndric Steptoe at University of Arizona. Austin, great dude. When he came into town to play us, we chopped it up and got to tapping with each other. I'm just looking to learn always. Same thing, my boy Drew Davis, who was at UCLA. He's been like my strongest mentor. Obviously, I played with him here. He was a few years older than me, but he's somebody that kind of helped walk me through this. But those are the type of relationships that I mean. And I think if you get a solid group or a core group of individuals that are going to help you, develop professionally, and then when the opportunity comes for a position like this, then it'll be easy for you to slide in that spot. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. Shout out to Step. Man, Step's from H, man. Or he's from Texas. If you anywhere near Houston, we're gonna take you in. But and also Drew Davis, man. Drew, when my unfortunate situation getting terminated without cause, Drew sent me a letter, man, with like encouraging notes, man, like little notes like for me to read every day. So Drew, good people, man. You have two great mentors right there. All right, so what's the best advice you've received in your life overall?
In my life overall. This is kind of a quote that I kind of stand by. One of my former coaches told me as a young student athlete way back when. It was, he says it the way he describes it, like the greatest gift you can have is God-given talent. And the worst thing you can do with that gift is not share it with anybody. So for me, it's always been about, I'm going to grind my way up to the top. I'm going to grind and get where I want to go, but I'm also going to do what I can along the way to help people who are next to me or maybe still working their way up, or even people who are ahead of me. There's always something you can give. There's always something that you can know, and there's always something you can learn. So like I touched on earlier, just continue to be open-minded, continue to build relationships. It all comes full circle. I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in right now, but that doesn't mean I know everything, and I know there's a long way for me to go, and there's a lot for me to learn. And there's also people who are still trying to get into this type of position, whether that's, Division I, D2, wherever, or even outside of, the landscape of football, but also just being in a mentorship position. So just continue to help people that are along the way. You're never too big to offer some assistance, offer some guidance. You're never too big to learn either. So that's the biggest point of advice I've received.
Awesome. Now, do you have any practical wisdom or a practical nugget for people that want to get in this role or people that are in this role?
I wouldn't say that I have like a quote or saying, but I will say that I kind of touched on what I talked about earlier about being open-minded. Although, and I know I've read this from you being expressed as well, like player development always isn't going to be 100% player development. You got to be open, and especially in a college football, system, you got to be open and willing to do other jobs as well. You got to be okay with people not knowing your title. Got to understand that people aren't always going to know what that title even means. They're just going to think that you're this guy for that. Just go to this guy for that, and not necessarily know that your work that you're doing. So, I would say at times it's a humbling position, just because you're not going to be viewed as a position coach. You're not going to be viewed as somebody who's in recruiting and bringing these 4 or 5 whatever athletes to your program. But you are going to be doing work that's beneficial for the student athletes. You're really going to be shining in the dark and behind the scenes. But
I like that.
At the end of it, when the student athletes leave this place and you have a genuine bond with them, and you feel like, or they feel like you've kind of assisted them into getting where they want to be, that's all that matters for me. Like for me to walk by, like this may sound corny, but for me, when I walk by student athletes and they're the first ones to say what's up to me, or they're the ones that tapping in with me, that means I'm doing something right. That they recognize me, they feel me, and I'm somebody they see as here to help. So that's kind of my vision of it. I wouldn't say that I have like a specific, saying or practical wisdom for that, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it.
No, I like what you said. That shining in the dark, man. That's the role. Like I tell people all the time, player development is so qualitative, and everybody else does quantitative work. So I can, if I'm in academics, I can bring a GPA. If I'm a position coach, I can bring yardage or touchdowns. If I'm a strength coach, I could bring pounds. If I'm a dietitian, I can bring weight loss, weight gain, whatever it may be. Even recruiting, I say, hey, we had the #1 recruiting class in the country or the conference or on this side of the United States, whatever it may be. And it's all right, player development. And I can tell you these freshmen are more mature than they were when they walked in here. It's like, but like to your point too, man, like I like what you say when the players talk to you first. One thing I've always loved is when players come in my office and say, Coach, how are you doing? And so I've always loved that. So now I'm going to ask you that question. How do you develop yourself in this role and take care of yourself? Because you're getting pulled in a lot of ways. You're caring for a lot of people. So how are you taking care of yourself?
To be honest with you, man, I probably like 6 to 8 months into it. It was tough. Like I was bringing work home. Didn't know how to shut it off. Just because I was in my head, I was like, I just got to be ready for my phone. Like somebody may need me. Got to be able to, hit them back right away. Or coach may call me, text me. Got to be able to give them something right away. And the more I'm into it, the more I'm developing a system. Not saying I'm less responsive, but just taking pockets throughout the day to spend time on me, whether that's, speaking with, a therapist or counselor, whether that. And the biggest thing for me, the therapy piece was huge. But also, taking time out of my day to go just get a workout. And even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's working out with the players, I got to get that in. And it helps me, kind of get all that tension and frustration out. And I don't just blow up or keep it internal. So that's been the biggest portion of me, just continually to, grow with what I'm feeling, grow a bigger understanding of what I'm feeling and what emotions that I'm having. That way it's not just thrown out in other conversations or, being displayed in other spaces. I don't think that's a healthy way to do this job. I will say that, as I'm sure there's going to be a lot that you're going to have to do that nobody necessarily knows about. And maybe it's you and the head coach know that you get it done. And there's going to be a lot of late nights where you got to go, be of assistance. But I'm just, continuing to find ways to, do things that I enjoy when I do have pockets of time throughout the day to kind of just spend between myself or our director of player academic development. He's like one of my best friends. We grew up around the same area. We didn't even know that till we got here. But, just venting to him, he vents to me. We kind of just building ourselves up. And I'm lucky to have a pretty strong support group here that helps me on those difficult times or those difficult moments when I am struggling to find that block of time or our piece of time where I can have me time or whatever you want to call it. So just continue to learn what works best for me and continue to make sure I'm disciplined and taking that time out and kind of giving to myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, here's rapid fire, man. First, before we get started with this, thank you so much for being on here, y'all. If you're listening to this, Tony dropped knowledge. You need to go listen to this. Don't go 1.5 speed, 1 1/4. You need to take notes. But I'm excited about this because I'm going to see how much, LA flair we get into this rapid fire. So, all right, here we go. What are you reading right now?
I'm reading Mama Mentality. I've probably read it 3 different times. Kobe's book is I'm a huge LA Laker fan, huge Kobe Bryant fan. I love hearing his story and how he kind of shapes himself into, how he goes about his professional business. I think he's different mentally. I think he's different in all aspects of life. Rest in peace to him. He's probably one of the one athlete I look up to from all aspects, not just what he did on the court, but also what he did into the community.
Yeah, like you said, I'm a big Kobe fan because that same intensity he brought on the court, he brings it to his entire life. And that's just something we try. I know you're trying to preach to student athletes, and I try and preach when I've been around them. All right, number 2, what daily discipline are you working on?
Like I said earlier, number 1, working out. Got to get that in. Well, even if it's 30 minutes, got to go do it. Whether it's a walk, whether it's a run, whether it's lifting weights, I'll find a way to get it done. And I was pretty consistent at the beginning of the season, and then kind of fell off, and then. Literally since, the new coaching era, I've made it a point to get in and do something. And I'm not like strength training and trying to look like
I already know. Yeah, I already
not
know.
Crazy like that, but just trying to do some cardio. I think that helps with my, my mental health and making sure I take care of myself. So that's one thing I'm practicing.
Yeah, I made that mistake, man. We had a couple guys on staff They were talking trash to each other. They go downstairs, put 400 on the bench, and I'm like, I can't touch that. So then they put 315. I hit it, and I was done for I was like, yeah, I'm good, bro. I don't need to touch it anymore. Yeah. All right, so I'm a foodie. I like eating food. It might have to do something with my size. But if someone gives you $25 for lunch in your city, in Eugene, where are you going?
Ooh, I'm a big foodie too, and I'm very indecisive with my food. But I have $25. I'm going to go to, there's this food cart called Once Famous Grill. It's black owned, former football player, soul food. I love hot links, and he's like one of the few places you can get them in Eugene, Oregon. So I'm going up there. I'm running it up. Probably get 2 meals for 25, and I'm having a good old time. Good old time.
Good old time. All right. Same question, but now you got 125 for dinner.
125 for dinner. I will probably go to this place called Gordon Tavern. It's kind of like a bar vibe, but more like date night type of bar feel. Right. So they have great service. It's a newer location here in Eugene. It's pretty popular for an older crowd like myself. I'm not that old, but they make me feel
I was about to say, man, if you old, yeah.
These kids make you feel old. So I would definitely go there. They have great menu, changes every now and then. Good vibe.
Perfect. All right. If you could join a band or music group, who would it be, past or present?
Ooh, that's a good question. Band or music? That means I have some musical talent. So there's this group called Division. They're an R&B crew based out of Canada, works with Drake and all that. They have really soulful music. That's what I like, R&B type. I like soulful. I'm on that. So that's the group I would want to join. Hopefully I have some vocals, something to contribute because they're pretty solid.
I'm gonna have to check that out because I'm a soul guy. I love soul.
It's
soul music.
Yeah.
DV what?
DVSN.
Perfect. Appreciate it. All right. Now, who would you want to co-star in a movie with? Action and comedy. Who would you want to co-star with?
If it was action, I mean, I feel like you gotta say ooh. I was gonna say Tom. No, let me do Jackie Chan. Does that count?
Yeah, that counts.
Let's do Jackie Chan because he's he's kind of action and comedy. But I mean, Tom Cruise, he takes the cake. If we're really trying to save the world or something, Tom Cruise. Yeah. Comedy. Who am I liking right now? I feel like Kevin Hart's a sellout, but I would say Kevin Hart.
Got you. I got you. All right, what sport do you wish you played growing up?
Ooh, I wish I played golf. Now I do because golf is fun. I'm horrible at it, but conversations I'm able to have on the golf course, relationships I've been able to build, and you gotta be really technically sound to play that sport. So I wish I had a little bit more experience for it.
Yeah. Whenever I golf, I'm just trying to crush it. I suck at everything else. I'm just trying to crush it. And then last but not least, before you go, how can we follow you and support you?
Social media, I try to be as present as I can, not just to showcase what we're doing, but really to showcase what these student athletes are doing, how they want to be involved in the community. So Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, Facebook, I'm always active or try to be active, and also showcase what other people in my network are doing, not just in Oregon, but all over the country. So follow me at Dubdrick, Tony Washington Jr. on LinkedIn, whatever. I try to be pretty active on that. So follow my journey, follow these student athletes' journey, continue to see them grow, continue to see them build. That's how you can catch me.
Awesome. Tony, appreciate you so much, man. I know we had a glitch. Nobody else is going to know that, but something happened. But thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Player Development Pod. Best of luck to you and the Oregon Ducks. And tell College I said what's up, man. You have a great one.
Got you, man. Appreciate you for having me. It's definitely an honor, man. You're one of the OGs and legends in this game, so I'm appreciate to be on this space with you.
I appreciate it.
Sure.